So for reasons that escape me, I bought this Night Slashers remake thing off GOG.com. Probably because it was a cheap deal at the time. Actually, yes, that's exactly why I bought it. It was dirt cheap at the time. Now don't take that to mean that I regret the purchase, because honestly, I didn't mind Night Slashers remake. I thought it was just fine. And that's it. That's the end of the review. Nothing left to say. Thanks for watching. Put up the end credits. I'll see you all next time. And if you want to stick around after the credits, I'll put up some deleted scenes for you to check out. And yeah, whatever. Night Slashers, for those who don't know, was originally conceived as a 1993 arcade title from Data East, where you could pick from one of 3 night-slashing people and beat up a bunch of zombies, mutants, and other things that go bump in the night, that sort of deal. Data East, or whoever owns these things nowadays, had this game available as one of those Johnny Turbo downloads on Switch until their removal in 2023, presumably so they could make way for this new remake, which redoes all the graphics and sound, as well as add in a 4th character who's really just an import from Data East's litigious take on Street Fighter II Fighter's history. Unfortunately, that 4th character is not Karnov. Nobody is going to care. Anyway, Night Slashers Remake is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, belt-scroller, whatever the vernacular you prefer, where you pick one of 3 night-slashing people or one fighter's history import, and beat up a bunch of zombies, mutants, and other things that go bump in the night. You have a variety of attacks at your disposal, the usual punch-kick combo thing, the usual throw, and of course the usual life-draining special attack used for a last-ditch crowd control move. Each character also has some dash attacks, as well as an additional chargeable attack that they can perform by holding down the attack button and letting go once they are turning blue and they're good to go. And each character has a different charge attack, but if you charge for too long, you'll eventually stun yourself, and that's bad. There's some added features to the overall package, a stage select for all the stages you've completed in the game's 5 difficulty settings, some bonus bits like arts and extra game features that you could enable for custom games, different color schemes for your 4 characters, and things of that nature. Night Slashers isn't a particularly long game. I think I blew through this thing in less than an hour on the default medium difficulty. I'd imagine it being tougher on hard and nightmare, but really didn't have much inclination to go that far. I was like, let's play a game, get some footage for the video, and I was done. As a belt-scrolling beat-em-up thing, Night Slashers Remake is a fun time for the most part. It's got a couple unique gimmicks going for it, controls are relatively solid for the most part, collision detection is on par with some of the better games in the genre, as it were, and really there's not much else to say here. It's another relatively competent and largely enjoyable beat-em-up that might come across as cookie-cutter at times, but on the other hand, it really doesn't overstay its welcome too much. The pacing is pretty smooth despite a couple of moments where things were dragging a bit, and if you want, there's additional features brought about by the remake that extends a bit of that replay value if you're looking for more night slashing action or whatever the case may be. There is also up to 4-player local co-op gameplay, which always makes for a fun time. Haven't noticed any online functionality, however. Maybe this doesn't have it, which would be surprising. I figured that would be a thing you do for this sort of game, but I guess that's too much of a premium feature for such a low-rent remake project. So as mentioned, the graphics have been given a bit of an overhaul to something a little more hand-drawn and such. Something that has gotten a bit of a mixed reaction, I noticed. Some people like it, others do not. Regardless, it would have been nice to have the option to toggle the graphics between the modern look or the original arcade graphics for those who want it, though given some of the additional content, I could see why that would not be an option. Personally, I don't mind the redone graphics, they look fine for the most part. It's not always the slickest or smoothest art, and on a side note, I like how everything bleeds with each hit, even the robots and the stone monsters. Cool. But I've seen worse in the style. It doesn't look completely terrible. That said, something is lost in translation when you're going from a much grittier pixel art style to this much cleaner looking visual presentation. For something that is supposed to be about fighting horror monsters and stuff, this does look a little clean cut. Other than that, it's okay. I'm not going to gripe on this too much. On the flip side, you do have the option to toggle between the original arcade music and the remade modern music, which Again, your mileage may vary, but the music in general was passable in either form. There weren't any standout tunes to stick to mind, but they do try to keep with the horror-ish theme of the game. Some organs here, but mostly rock sorts of medley stuff, nothing special. Of course, the music tracks are a throwback to the CD-ROM days when music would play for a couple of minutes before fading out and restarting again rather than a consistent stream of music like, every other game. Sound effects and vocal clips are just fine, I guess. Nothing else to add there. Overall, Night Slasher's Remake is fine for a beat 'em up. That's really all I have to say. I haven't played enough of the original Night Slasher to say whether this is a worthy remake or tribute or what changes they made, whatever the case may be. I can only speak to the product before me, and the product before me is more than perfectly acceptable side-scrolling, belt-scrolling, whatever fare with modern conveniences added in for good measure or what have you. For a random out-of-the-blue purchase, I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Not something that's going to stick with me in the long term, but something I can pop in every so often for a quick fix whenever I need it. All in all, not too shabby.